Jewish Channel's Weekend Review. Another violent attack hits Jews in Europe, feminism in Jewish ritual, and more of the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Weekend Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Weekend Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. Violent anti-Semitism in Europe continues to concern the Jewish community, with expressions of solidarity from government leaders. A pair of shootings in Copenhagen on Saturday, the first at an assembly for free speech at a cafe and the second at a synagogue, killed one person at each location. 55-year-old filmmaker Finn Norgard was killed at the free speech event, and the 37-year-old economist Dan Uzan was killed at the synagogue, where he was serving as a volunteer security guard. Many commentators noted a theme of attacking symbols of free speech, followed by an attack on a symbol of the Jewish community, pairing the recent Paris attack with this one in Copenhagen. The attack in Copenhagen comes several weeks after Jewish students were told to stop wearing yarmulkes and other Jewish symbols out of concern for their safety. The Danish Jewish community had reportedly made repeated requests for additional security funding from the government and had been turned down. After a visit to the synagogue, Danish Prime Minister Helle Thorning-Schmidt had this to say.
We stand here in front of the Jewish synagogue in Copenhagen. We are devastated today. A man has lost his life in a service of that synagogue, and we are devastated. Our thoughts goes to his family. We are with them today, but our thoughts goes to the whole of the Jewish community today. They belong in Denmark. They are a strong part of our community, and we will do everything we can to protect the Jewish community in our country.
Another response to the Copenhagen attack that was similar to the response to the attack in Paris was the sentiment expressed by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that the proper response is for Jews to leave their homes in Europe and move to Israel. In a statement Sunday, Netanyahu declared, quote, "Of course, Jews deserve protection in every country, but we say to Jews, to our brothers and sisters, Israel is your home. We are preparing and calling for the absorption of mass immigration from Europe. I would like to tell all European Jews and all Jews wherever they are, Israel is the home of every Jew." Danish Chief Rabbi Yair Melchior responded firmly to Netanyahu's statement, asserting, quote, "Terror is not a reason to move to Israel." Melchior added that he was, quote, "disappointed" in Netanyahu's statement. Of course, much of the discourse about Netanyahu here in the United States concerns his planned speech to Congress on March 3rd, which many consider both an interference in the Israeli election scheduled for 2 weeks after the speech and an affront to the administration of President Barack Obama. That latter point was confirmed with more certainty Sunday in comments from Speaker of the House John Boehner, who said he intentionally did not inform the White House or State Department of his plan to invite Netanyahu, quote, "to make sure that there was no interference." Moving on to a different question of including diverse voices in the Jewish community, a recent conference tackled the theme of Jewish feminism in theology and worship, and Christian Needham was there.
Judaism's gender gap was up for discussion recently during a conference held at Congregation B'nai Jeshurun on Manhattan's Upper West Side. Meet Me at Sinai was a day of learning featuring speakers and discussion sessions inspired by the 25th anniversary of the publication of Dr. Judith Plaskow's book, Standing Again at Sinai, Judaism from a Feminist Perspective. Plaskow talked to TJC about the cultural moment for Jewish women during which she wrote her influential book.
I grew up in a Reform congregation where women were on the bima only to light candles on Friday night. So by 1990, things had certainly changed dramatically, but they were still in flux. And the book was trying to speak to that moment of flux and change from a situation in which women were almost entirely marginalized, even in liberal Judaism, to a situation of real inclusion.
B'nai Jeshurun's Rabbi Felicia Soul said Plaskow's book was important because it raised productive questions about the gender foundations upon which Judaism is built.
Not just from a sense of access, like women participating or women becoming rabbis, but really the foundations of having a God that is male and what it means to have a tradition built with the authority of men all over it. She raised the questions of how do we open up that structure to not just let women in, but let women talk in their way and receive revelation on their terms.
Forward editor-in-chief and host of TJC's The Salon, Jane Eisner, moderated the day's first onstage discussion with Jewish feminist activist and Miss Magazine co-founder Letty Cotton Pogrebin and Rabbah Sura Hurwitz, one of the first women to be ordained as a member of the Orthodox clergy. Eisner noted the importance of Plaskow's book in advancing ideas of female inclusion in Judaism and how it normalized what was at the time labeled as radical.
Like all groundbreaking work, we've absorbed many of the ideas and the lessons. So, what seemed radical now seems obvious. There are women rabbis everywhere, women spiritual leaders. We are dealing with liturgy in certain ways that I think were really important. There's no longer a question about whether or not we can affect Jewish life. I think the question remains, how do we do that, and in what areas of Jewish life can we do this?
25 years after the publication of her book, Plaskow said it is the Torah itself that continues to raise these questions and challenges to gender equality in Judaism.
We're still walking around with the same Torah that in so many ways is demeaning to women. And I've never been someone who's wanted to throw out the Torah and get a new one, but I think we haven't really come to terms yet with what do we do with the Torah.
For more from the Meet Me at Sinai conference, please tune in to the full broadcast edition of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. Finally, this week on Up Close, we're looking at different ways of looking at our past and what we recover when we do so. This book is a must-read for anyone interested in religion in America. Delivering a perspective of religious difference in a country often described as Christian, Peter Manseau stops by to discuss his book, One Nation Under God's A New American History. And then, what we remember of the past is often colored by the way we choose to memorialize it. Brigitte Sion examines the impact of such monuments in Memorials in Berlin and Buenos Aires, balancing memory, architecture, and tourism. Here are some of the highlights from my interview with Brigitte Sion. What is going on with memorializing the Holocaust in Berlin?
There's a lot going on. I think the memorial, the main memorial I write about in this book is the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe, which is the first national Holocaust memorial in Germany. Doesn't mean that there are no other Holocaust memorials. I'm sure you know a lot of them, and probably our viewers have seen a lot of them. But this is the first time that Germany actually built and sponsored, the state of Germany sponsored a national memorial to the Jews that were murdered during the Holocaust. So it's something new in itself, even though the memorializing is not new. What is really interesting in this particular case is that there were considerable challenges that faced the initiators of this memorial.
And we've seen controversies in recent years at various points over what you might call Holocaust selfies of various tourists deciding to stop in front of a memorial and take a picture of themselves, and sometimes pictures of themselves jumping up happily, sometimes pictures of themselves kissing, doing things. But that seems to be kind of the cost of doing business. The cost of memorializing something publicly is that you don't really get to make choices about how people will receive it.
Right. When Peter Eisenman dedicated the memorial in 2005, he actually said, "I now give the memorial to the people of Berlin. It's not my memorial, and it's not, even though I'm the architect." And what he meant by that is that it's time for the population to appropriate this monument and do whatever they want to do with it in a way. But really, one of the issues is, does it tell us more about or take 9/11 and take the new memorial and museum for 9/11 in downtown Manhattan? Does it give us really a sense of what the tragedy was and how it's commemorated? Or is it more of a snapshot of how now, in the year such and such monument was built, this is the way we relate to the tragedy and how we remember it?
You talk about within an individual memorial, losing sight of the individuals who died. It seems like we're losing sight even of the large masses, the identity of individual events in and of themselves, that if the Holocaust Memorial echoes so much a 9/11 memorial or a Vietnam War memorial and a memorial for the disappeared echoes so much, a memorial in Cambodia and so on and so forth, are we even losing hold of these events? as distinct events?
I don't want to be that pessimistic. I think that's why you need, beyond the memorial itself or the architectural rendition of a memorial site, which can be very powerful and very symbolic, and work on the emotional side of memory. That's how we cry. That's why we are moved. That's how we want to ask questions. That's why we feel shaken or disturbed or any kind of feeling and emotion that is triggered by a memorial site. But then our cognition needs to be fed in a way, and so that's why we need museums, or we need a whole educational equipment next to that.
You can see the full episode of Up Close on the Jewish Channel on cable. You can also listen to the full audio of Up Close as a podcast, available on iTunes and your favorite podcast player. That's all for this week. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable: Time Warner Cable Channel 1640, Iowa Uplink Channel 505, RCN Channel 268, Cox Cable Channel 1, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and on Comcast and the on-demand menu on premium channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.